growing up. Wonder and learning was a way of life. My mother would say, this is how we set the table, just so. And I wondered why. Why do we do things the way we do them? I was just kind of primed to question everything. It was always a foregone conclusion that I would go to Trinity. And there was a class with Cal Townsend, Political Theory 101, and we were exploring this concept of the state of nature. And I'm reading Genesis for what feels like the first time alongside these political theorists, from Jacques Rousseau to Thomas Hobbes to John Locke. I had never thought about these things before. I ask him these questions, and he kind of laughs and looks at me and says, Lexi, reasonable minds can disagree whether the earth was created in literal 7 days versus a metaphorical 7 days, or whether the creation narrative and the Adam and Eve story is a poem, as some scholars say, versus literal. But what defines us as Christians is Christ. And that was like balm to my soul, that, I didn't have to have it all figured out, and I could have grace for others for having different points of views. Soon after I graduated, I took a role in federal government in Washington, D.C., and this was my big break.
A just law is a law that uplifts human personality, and unjust law degrades it.
The existential crisis of meaning in our country.
That conflict doesn't have to spell the end of relationships.
And I could not have been more disillusioned, because one thing my mom had said growing up was that manners mattered because they were an outward expression of our inward character. And yet here I was surrounded by people who were well-mannered and polished, but ruthless and cruel. We live in a deeply dehumanizing time where we are very likely to dehumanize those that we don't like, we don't agree with. And I wrote my book to be a counterbalance to that, an antidote. Civility is something deeper and richer. It's a disposition of the heart. It's seeing the imago Dei in others and ourselves and saying, I owe them a bare minimum of respect. The lifeblood of any democracy is disagreement, and civility enables that disagreement. It compels us to bring our deeply held convictions to the fore and have honest conversations about them. What's true for me now is that I love to learn, and I love to share what I'm learning. My prayer is that every person who reads my book is drawn closer to Christ. And I hope that inspires them to find their own space in the world for themselves, to be who God created them to be.